Really excited to be here to speak to the folks of the Blue Sky Aviation Association at their annual dinner meeting. It is a special day because it is Veterans Day in 2011, and just want to say thank you to all of those of you that it served. One of the things that I get to speak about, and one of the things I love to speak about, is aviation and my passion for aviation. Well, today I want to talk about something else that I've been doing and something I've become involved with over the past few years, and that's new media production, and also becoming a co-host on a podcast. My name's Carl Valeri, and I'm a flight instructor. I'm also an airline captain, and I'm co-host of the Stuck Mike Avcast, an aviation podcast about living to fly, loving to fly, and learning to fly. So, where did I come from? Well, I was just like many of you out there. I used to go to the airport and watch the airplanes fly around, and got excited when I'd see a 172 take off and land. As a matter of fact, when I was a child, I'd go to Newark Airport just to watch the airplanes when we didn't have anything better to do that day. But from that point till now, there was no way of me really being able to share that passion for flight. Well, there is something. It's called new media, and that's what allows me to share my passion. And today I'd like to talk about how new media truly has taken flight and how it enhances our passion for aviation. We truly are passionate people, us pilots. And when we're not in the air flying, what are we doing? Normally we're out, again, at the airport. We're watching others fly, either through videos, online, or DVDs, or we just simply go outside and look up into the air and watch the airplanes fly by. When pilots aren't flying, they're thinking about flying. Well, hopefully you're not thinking about it while you're driving like I did one day and kind of ran off the road when I was looking up at the sky and seeing some large 747 fly by. Fortunately, I blew a few tires that day, but it was worth it. It was a really good view. When pilots aren't flying, we talk about flying. Some of us call it hangar flying, and we learn from each other. We really enjoy that interaction of being able to talk to fellow pilots. We have that camaraderie as pilots, and it's something that we could spend hours and hours speaking about. And when pilots aren't flying, we're reading about flying, whether it's through magazines, newspapers, even online. We're constantly reading about flying, and also in some textbooks if we're looking at adding a new rating. And when pilots aren't flying, we're listening to other flying adventures from other pilots, just like hangar flying, just like we're doing today as we're sitting here and we're talking about or listening to flying adventures, my flying adventures I'm talking about. But you too, afterwards, you'll get together and you'll talk about your flying adventures from the last week, the last month, etc. So we're always listening to others talk about flying adventures. Well, there's a new way to enjoy this passion for flight. There's a new way to stay connected with other pilots without even leaving your home, but even when you're away from home, still staying connected through certain electronic devices. And that's new media. So today we're going to talk about how new media enhances our passion for flight. But first, let's discuss what is new media. To understand new media, we need to understand what traditional media is. And by traditional media, we mean things like the printed newspaper, the magazine, which have static images and text. They're not very interactive, but there's still a place for that. People still love the smell of the paper and the feel of the paper and to be able to look at pictures and flip through them. I love electronic media, but I still like to pick up my magazine or book. But what we've done is we've come into the realm of the computer age, and we've democratized the content consumption. In other words, we have been put in charge of what we want to watch, listen, read, etc. We have a wide choice and a wide range of places we can go to actually see our news, our entertainment, information, the opinion columns. We have so many places that we can look now, and we can do that immediately. Also, the great thing about new media is that it's put power into the content creators. It's put power into the videographers, the writers, singers, actors, musicians, photographers, teachers. Everybody has gotten involved. Anybody with a voice can and will produce something that can be put out on the internet or can be shared with others in some way. We're sharing through speaking. But they can publish that content. They don't have to go to a big publishing house. They can do it themselves. They can choose the distribution method. They can actually go out and put it on a computer. They can put it on a CD, a video. They can put it on a podcast, a blog. So they decide. We decide. We're the ones that can create. Anybody can do it, and it's not very expensive. So this new media, we've gone from the traditional newspapers, magazines. Now it's all on demand. It's interactive. It's in this digital format, and it's accessible anywhere. So that is new media. Its delivery is through something digital, a computer, an electronic reader, a smartphone, a tablet computer. Interestingly enough, electronic readers, everybody said that's the end of the book, but no, there's still people who love to read their books, and it's actually enhanced the sales of books in certain areas. So we talk about new media and we say, you know, okay, now we know it's digital content, it's interactive, but a lot of people don't realize is that you've already been using new media. Many of you, anybody who has a computer has already been using this new media because newsletters, emails, social networking, search engines, any type of reference online we've used. We've used online encyclopedias like Wikipedia. This is a free encyclopedia where we can interact with it. We can actually say to it, hey, listen, this fact is not correct, and here's the correct answer, and here's my sources to tell you why. Facebook, the busiest website out there, the biggest website out there is Facebook, and we interact with our friends, our family, colleagues. Now we can interact with the many people in our aviation community. And of course, we've used the search engines of Google and Yahoo. And one other thing that has become much larger recently is the YouTube era. Now everybody's posting out on YouTube because it's become much easier to do that, and it's wonderful. We can share videos right away. Like this right here, this presentation I'm doing will be put out on the internet right before I go out and do this presentation, and you'll be able to watch it even as I'm speaking. So new media, okay, it was emails, search engines, but now it's moved forward into another format in the past few years. And that format is, in one sense, blogs and podcasts and live streaming. But the blogs have really evolved and have become very large and have some really great content from people that we know. For instance, the Huffington Post, ESPN, they have auto blogs, Mashable, which is all the internet and what's new on the internet, and TMZ, you know, it's basically a gossip column. But what is this blog? What does it mean? It means weblog. It was shortened to say blog. But it's basically, it's a website that's updated from time to time, and normally it puts the date and time of when it was updated. And we actually can look at that blog and say, okay, this is my blog about ESPN, about this football team. I'm going to read the blog about the Giants, and I'll get the updates as to, you know, the different plays from the game and different opinions from certain people on that team, and even team members will have their own blogs. The other part that's really exciting, I think, and has come onto its own because of the production methodologies and also the fact that it has become much easier to use and also to produce, is called podcasts. And these podcasts, I like to talk about them as if they were internet radio, interactive, and internet radio where you can choose which one you want to listen to, and they're all pre-recorded shows. They can be either audio or video, and they're stored electronically either on a computer, like a server where you can connect to the internet and pull that data down, or a smartphone, a tablet computer. And what's really great is that most of these subscriptions are free. And you can see here there's a wide variety. There's the Mac Power Users, where you can learn all about Macs. There's also, one of my favorites is the Tampa's Lowry Park Zoo, and what I've done is I've subscribed to their updates. So if a new animal comes as an exhibit, I'll download the podcast about that animal. And what I'll do is, as I go through the zoo, I'll press on the podcast about the zebra, and it'll talk about the zebra. And I'll learn so much by being there, looking at the zebra, and then listening to somebody in my ear talk about that zebra. And of course, there's how stuff works. Now, podcasts. How do we use a podcast, and how does podcasting works? That's somewhat outside the realm of this. It's just for you. You should know right now is that it's easy to get nowadays. Podcasts are easy to find. They're easy to subscribe to. There's a great resource on the internet on at howstuffworks.com, and what it does is it goes through how podcasting works. What is a podcast? Its history. How to listen to podcasts. Even goes in a little bit about creating podcasts and the video podcasts, etc. So I want to point you towards that, but just suffice it to say, getting that podcast, getting that radio show that you want to listen to is much easier these days. And many people have made it easier to actually look at or listen to their podcasts by allowing you to play that on their website. Before, you used to have to go to a specific type of software like iTunes, which is Apple's product, and you would have to download and subscribe, and the subscription process was a little bit cumbersome. Now, most websites will actually have the ability to push the play button and listen, or click on another link and download it to your own player. Or if you do have iTunes, which most people do, click on the iTunes, subscribe to that podcast, and get updates automatically when they come. That's terrific. It makes life so much easier, and most websites are going towards that. So now, you really don't even have to know what a podcast is. You just have to know that there's some audio you want to listen to. You go to that website, and depending on what type of device you have, or if you just want to listen to it, that's what you do. You just press play. Now let's get to the aviation side. Now let's look at new media and how it enhances our world as aviation, as pilots, and it enhances our aviation knowledge through online courses. Many of these courses are free, like the FAA safety program, the Wings program. Most of those courses are free, even though they have some links to other courses that you pay for, but you can get credit and actually use that for your flight review. It's terrific. Also, of course, there's the King Schools, and they have an online course. What's interesting is that when I was looking at their website, they said, you'll never have the old news. In other words, you'll always have the updates. You'll have the current exam data bank always online. You don't have to wait for the next book to be published with all the questions for the exam you're studying for, whether it's the instrument rating, the commercial, etc. And then there's the AOPA Air Safety Foundation, has some wonderful courses online on runway safety, on weather. But all these are terrific. They enhance our aviation knowledge, and the majority, again, are free. They're wonderful. The other way we enhance our passion for flight is through podcasts and our knowledge through podcasts. Some of the ones about general aviation are the most popular one is the Uncontrolled Airspace. And of course the other one, which I'm co-host of, is the Stuck Mic Avcast. When we talk about aviation, general aviation, hangar flying. Another really popular one is Airplane Geeks, which is a podcast which talks about more about the actual commercial aviation and the history of aviation, and it's people who really are into aviation but may not be pilots. So there's something for everybody out there that's into aviation, whether you're a pilot or someone who wants to be a pilot, or just one who admires the history of aircraft and flying. Blogs, written media. There's some wonderful blogs out there, people you've already probably been reading. Mac McLean, excuse me. He his Left Seat column, Sport Aviation, terrific. He has been an author for years, and many of you have already been reading him. One of the blogs that I actually help write for is the Pilot Report, and they do reviews and demos, and they're the ones that actually Len Costa is the one that produces the Stuck Mic Avcast. And then there's some really fun blogs out there, and one that I love is Toria Flies, and it's the thoughts of a redhead aviatrix. And Victoria is just a wonderful person, and Victoria Newell is also one of our co-hosts on the show, and she talks about that passion of flying. And speaking of passion, there's many that are specifically focus towards that passion for flight, or the passionate history of flight, like the inner art of airmanship, where we talk about the psychology of learning to fly, of flying better. And then we have podcasts about the newbie, the one that's starting out, the student pilot, and we follow through their trials and tribulations while they're actually learning how to fly. And then there's a terrific website about how about the history of aviation. And it's really an airplane geek's view of aviation history, and it truly is. And it's a wonderful place to be. What just flew by. But now that we know that we can enhance our knowledge and our passion for flight, we also can enhance our relationships with our non-flying friends and family. And how do we do that? Well, one of the ways is that when we have non-productive time away from friends, away from family, we listen to those podcasts. We look at the computer. We get our aviation fix. So when we are with our family, we can say, okay, we've filled up a little bit that day with our aviation needs. So that's been filled up, and a void has been filled before we get home. So we don't have to say, hey, I don't want to run to the computer and learn about this. I have already seen that. When I was waiting at the doctor's office, waiting in line, I was looking at it on my iPad, my iPhone, on my laptop computer. But one thing that we need to do is to share that passion for flight. And when we're sharing that passion for flight, we have to be careful, because not everything is family friendly. So let's make sure that when we have our family and our friends in the car, and mixed company, people we don't know, we listen to family friendly podcasts that don't have any swearing, that don't have any political background. For instance, the Aviation podcast, The Finer Points. It's a wonderful podcast. He's a musician with ours, the Stuck Mic. It's family friendly, non-political. And of course, AOPA's Never Again is experiences of people that have run into trouble and have made it through, and they want to relate that to us. And these are all terrific family-friendly podcasts. So also another thing we need to do is with our partner, we need to show them a little bit about podcasts so that they can also get involved. You can share not just the dream and the passion for aviation, but also how to use this tool so that they can enjoy their passion. Say they're into horses or scuba diving or traveling or gardening. They can go out there and they can subscribe to these podcasts. You show them how to do that. And what happens is when they see that, they say, oh wow, I saw this other aviation podcast you might be interested in. Have you seen this? They'll email it to you. It's terrific. So if you hear something, say on a podcast, and you say, gosh, you know what? I've been trying to explain to my wife or my girlfriend or my boyfriend that what it means when they tell me that I have to descend rapidly, or that I'm cleared into the airspace. Well, somebody did a podcast on airspace and flying through airspace, but they did that podcast in a manner that anybody can learn. The non-flying public can learn. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to say, wait a minute, this is great. Let me go back, hold on to that. Say, hey, hon, look, come on. When we're driving to the grocery store, I really want you to listen to this, and you start playing it. Say, hey, bring those people you really care about into your world, into the technical side. Just give them little pieces, though, little bits. Say, hey, look here. Point and say, this is what I've been talking about. Remember when I say they told me to descend via and to cross at this altitude, and etc. This is what they meant. Another thing we need to do when we're sharing that passion for flight is share these articles online, these events online, and make sure that it relates to the other person in some way, and include a lot of local events. For instance, like the Greenwood Lake Air Show and Car Show. They have a lot of things there for kids to do, and that's something, if you have children, it'd be a wonderful thing to take them to, a little diversion for the day. Of course, the Festival of Ballooning, the largest summertime balloon festival in the United States, right here at Solberg Airport. And we all know about that one here, that since the club is based out of Solberg, but this is just a terrific event, something for everybody, something for the children, something for people that are into collectibles, etc. There's many different types of vendors. And then, of course, the Atlantic City Air Show. That's a really exciting one. Everybody can enjoy that, with usually the Thunderbirds coming by for that. So now, how do we get involved in this new world, in this world of this new media? Well, we do it in many ways, through social media, blogs, podcasts, online courses, aviation videos, and we come together. For instance, we show people, like here, I'm sharing my passion for flight with a friend of mine, and she's for the first time was able to take off and land. And then we have meetups, and in the picture above is a meetup with the Uncontrolled Airspace podcast, and Rick Felty is one of our fellow co-hosts who actually was at that event, and he's in that picture. So we get involved in New Media, and then there's other folks that aren't actually on the podcast that come by and they visit with us, and they actually get to say hello to us, and they interact into this larger community. Social media, get involved in the conversation. We can interact directly with our aviation heroes, instructors, and leaders of industry. These are a couple of the people that I'm friends with on Facebook. One of them is Rod Machado, and he's a terrific aviation humorist and a great teacher. And of course Chuck Yeager, and he's just, of course, everybody knows how he broke the sound barrier, and Gordon Bethune, the former CEO of Continental Airlines. So again, we look towards aviation blogs to get involved. We look towards aviation podcasts, which we talked about. Online courses, these are all new media, and one area that I think is absolutely terrific is the aviation videos. More and more people are developing pictures and videos where we can go out there and learn. Most of us like to passively look at videos. We've had a long day, and we don't really want to get too involved in clicking too much, so we just want to press on it, hit play, and watch it. There are so many good things out there, like AvWeb for product reviews, and General Aviation channel, where you can see new things like this Piaggio in this picture. There's my channel, Expert Aviator TV, where I talk about learning to fly, but I also like to talk about places to fly in the history of aviation. And then we have Jason Shepard at m0a.com, and he has a lot of videos about flight instruction and learning how to do landings, like in this case crosswind landings. And of course my co-host here, Rick Felty, a great guy, wonderful videos. He has some very unique videos about flying, and he brings us into his life, into flying around the pattern, and then on our podcast we'll actually talk about some of his flights. But his videos are from many different angles, and I've even heard people talk about the fact that they made a Rick Felty type of video. In other words, they made a video where it shows all different angles, and you just come along with him on the adventure, on that flying adventure. So where do we find this new media? Where do we find the aviation new media to consume? Of course, there's Yahoo, Google, YouTube. We just do searches on things, like we can search on crosswind landing. But one of my favorite sites, and the site I normally go to, is a site called 30,000feet.com, and he has an exhaustive search and directory of all that's aviation. He's also the co-host, or the host, I should say, of the Airplane Geeks Aviation podcast. And so that's where we start. And then we go from there. And if you see something, you continue on throughout the internet. The internet is wonderful. It's a path we can go down and just discover so many new items, especially in aviation. In closing, I just want to say that, as pilots, we look at the world from a much different perspective. We see cities like here in New York City from the air. We see boats from the air. Thunderstorms, we don't see them from the ground. We fly above them and see their big puffy clouds. We see bridges. But we want to share that passion of flying with others. We want to bring them in. We want to show them the beaches, the beautiful colors, the places to shop from the air, our house, as we fly by. New media truly does enhance our passion for flight. We can share all of this with our friends and with our family. And I want to challenge you to go out today and look on the internet and get involved. Look at some of these videos, these websites, and learn what is new media. How do I look at a blog? How do I download a podcast? How do I watch a video online? My name is Carl Valeri, and I blog at expertaviator.com, and I'm also the co-host of the Stuck Mike Avcast. And I invite you to come into my world, into this world of new media, because it really is truly a great place to enhance our passion for flight.